We are live. Welcome, everyone, to tonight's Kabbalah class. We are now in the 18th class of Sefer Yetzirah. We are holding in chapter 1, part 2 of chapter 1. And let's get started. Okay, so just to recap the intro of chapter 1, part 2. Begins like this: 10 sfirot of nothingness, Esser sfirot bli ma, ve'esrim shtaim v'shtaim osios, with 22 foundation letters, shlosh imot, 3 mothers, and then it goes on with 7 doubles and 12 elementals or diagonals. Last class we've talked about the 10 sfirot. We talked about how there's sfirot of nothingness, and in last class we discussed the 22 different foundation letters, which are the root of the Hebrew alphabet. And out of those 22 foundation letters, they're divided into 3 mothers, 7 doubles, and 12 elementals. And those are the types of letters, if you will. And now we're going to talk about the 3 mothers. And this is a concept that is going to be carried out a lot in the Sefer Yetzirah, and is going to be discussed throughout the Sefer Yetzirah, this concept of 3 mothers. They're called 3 mothers because they literally give birth to the other sfirot. And they are actually higher than what we say is God's name, Yud He Vav He. They come from the world of Tohu. And it is the energy, if you will, that forms all the lower energies. So it says like this: the 3 letters are Aleph, Mem, and Shin. They will be discussed at length in chapter 3 when we get there. So we're not there yet. But these 3 letters are called mothers because they are primary. Essentially, you want to take the copies? We still have them from last time. Want to pass them around? Take one to yourself. We're on page 31. So if you look, did I put the diagram in? I think I did, right? Yeah. No, keep going. Next page. Yeah. Okay, so if you look at the horizontals, yeah, you have Aleph is the middle horizontal, Shin is the upper, and Mem is the lower. And I think we're getting into this in depth later on in chapter 3. He's not touching on it so much. Let's see what it says inside, and then I could expound a little bit. So they're called mothers because they are primary. Essentially, Aleph is the first letter of the alphabet, Mem is the middle letter, and Shin is the second from last. So the reason why Taf, the last letter of the alphabet, is not used is because it is one of the doubles. One reason why these letters are called mothers is because in general, the letters are derived from understanding, Bina. As discussed earlier, understanding is the primary feminine principle and is therefore called mother. This is alluded to in the verse, "For you shall call understanding a mother," from Proverbs. Since these are the primary letters, they are called the mothers. The letters are also called imot in the same sense that a crossroad is called a mother of the road, as it brings down the prophet Yetzirah. These 3 letters are called crossroads since they form the horizontal links between the sfirot and the tree of life diagram, as we just pointed out. On a more basic level, these are mothers because the number of horizontal links defines the order of the array as discussed below. We're getting into in a second. So I don't want to get too much into it because in chapter 3, it goes very deep into it. But just briefly, it says that the 2, we know there's 4 elements of all creation, right? Earth, fire, water, and air. So generally speaking, when we're dealing with the sfirot, Aleph, Mem, and Shin represent 3 of those. Aleph represents air, Mem represents water, and Shin represents fire. So Shin is likened to the head. Mem is to the belly. That's not inside. This is later on that we'll get to it. And Aleph is the lungs, which are over the heart, which are breathing. And this is a meditative technique that we have spoke about, that the belly is Chokhmah consciousness, which is likened to water. That's Mem. If you see, the Mem is the lowest down of the 3.
The connection to Chokhmah.
Huh? Because Chokhmah is water.
Chokhmah is up there between the Bina.
Right. That's what's confusing. So this is coming from a higher level. before it gives birth to what Yud Ke Vav Ke. So Aleph Mem Shin, if you will, gives birth to Yud Ke Vav Ke. And the Aleph is going to be the Vav, the Shin is going to be the upper Hey, and the Mem is going to be the Yud. So this is an array as it is above what we're used to the world of Tikkun. This is like the energy that comes from the world of Tohu, that's higher than the world of Tikkun. So, which is why often, people talk about your gut, right? So if you look at just the 5 levels of the worlds, you have the first level is Keter, right? Which, as we know, is the oneness level. And then after that, you have the world of Itzilus, which is Itzilus is not connected to the brain. It's Makshava, Dibur, and Maisa. So Makshava is connected to actually the Bina. So the actual thought, the energy of the brain is more likened to the world of Bria. One of the world of Itzilus, as we say, is Mazal, right? What is Mazal? It's an energy that's above senses. It's your gut. This is like the belly represents the gut feeling, which is water, which is higher than the brain in a sense, because sometimes we're thinking with our logical brain, but we have to trust our guts, which is from this water area. So what happens in meditative practices, you have the fire and the water, which is the Shin and the Mem. And it says that the air, the breath, controls between both of them, which is, you ever heard of someone, they say, for it's always hot-headed. You heard this saying before? Like someone who gets angry easily, you call them a hothead. Why hot-headed? Because fire literally is in the head. This is where it comes in the brain to get the the energy can be very, in 2 seconds, get someone aroused. So in a meditative practice, the Bina consciousness or the fire is likened to what we say is verbal consciousness or thoughts. And okay, I don't know what's going on there. Okay, so now we're going to move on. The Sefer Yetzirah is going to talk more about these at length as we get further along. But I don't want to spend too much time on it now. Let's continue on the flow. So the three mother letters are Aleph, Mem, and Shin. Then we have 7 doubles. These are the 7 letters that can express 2 sounds: Beit, Gimel, Dalid, Kaf, Peh, Resh, and Taf. The elementals are the 12 remaining letters, which have a single sound. These 2 groups will be discussed in chapters 4 and 5, respectively. Now, keep in mind, as we're looking at the spherotic tree, and we see it, if you see inside of the Sefer Yetzirah, every one of these lines have a letter to it, right? And together they make up 22. So you have the 3 mothers, you have the 7 doubles, and then you have 12 elementals. The 12 elementals actually are called also the 12 diagonal lines. And those lines, they say, make up the boundaries of the universe. And they're also likened to the 12 tribes of the Jewish people, that we represent in a deep Kabbalistic way the framework of all of the universe and the energy that God has put into all the Jewish people as a nation. This is why the Mazal, there's 12 signs and there's 12 energies, because together all these tribes make up the wrapper of the universe, if you will, the boundaries of the universe. That's why they're called the 12 diagonals, because the diagonal lines are the ones that shoot out to further dimensions. And what that does is it causes the energy, if you will, of the universe to be in a dimension that it can be used. So the Jewish people represent in a Kabbalistic way very deep levels that are connected to Him, that define all of the boundaries of creation. And that's why it's so important that we do what we're meant to do in this world, because when we keep Torah and mitzvot and we're connected to Hashem at that level, we help define the universe and keep things in balance. And when we're, God forbid, disconnected from that, you see there's chaos in the world, because then the world, the energy is not flowing. It's all messed up. And that's why it says as we learn in Petach Eliyahu, it's so weird. It's showing full power, and over here it's showing barely any. That's why we see with in Petach Eliyahu, it says that whoever causes a separation in the Sefirot, it's like they cause a separation in you, God. Meaning that if the forces of evil intentionally want to break into this spherotic realm and suck that energy out and redirect it towards not proper things, they're only able to do that because of that we unwillingly or unknowingly are creating. When we're doing our function, we're connecting the energy from God into the world, it can't enter inside. But when we're not doing our job, that divine energy that has been put inside of us is open. It's like someone who's like, they're not wearing an armor properly, and a sword could go through, and all that energy is just getting leaked and leaked out. And that's why you see mass chaos, especially what's happening right now, because God is in the process of rectifying the energy and bringing things back to a state of completion. So there's more chaos than normal right now. But when we function in the way we're supposed to function, all the energy flows in the way it's supposed to flow. Okay, so these groups we'll discuss further in chapters 4 and 5, respectively. And it's interesting because you see in the Sefer Yetzirah how it says the reason they're called doubles is it can express 2 sounds, whereas the elementals are only a single sound, because in the back of the Sefer Yetzirah, there's all these meditations that are really wild. Like, it's hard to see it over here, but there's all these partsufim and all these combinations of these letters. And the ancient Kabbalists would pronounce these letters in the proper way with proper meditations, and that's how they created the golem, like how the Merag of Prague created the golem, because with using these energies in a way for those who know how to use it, you can literally change creation. It's pretty wild if you think about it. So all these letters and the pronouncing of them are essential to driving this energy into the world. Okay, now it says on the top of 32, if we draw 10 points in 3 columns in the simplest manner, we see that they are automatically linked by 22 lines. Of these, 3 are horizontal, 7 are vertical, and 12 are diagonal, as shown in figure 2 on page 26, which you'll see. I don't know if you have it there on page 26, but it did it in a very simple way. It's showing just the most simple array of this. where it's showing 3 horizontal, 3 vertical, and then, I'm sorry, 3 horizontal, 7 vertical, and then what's remaining are the 12 diagonal. And that is the array of spheroids. According to the array, it's a little bit differently, but then based on one opinion, that's how the tree of the spheroid are. And that exact is perfectly symmetrical. So it says this division presented by the Sefer Yetzirah is therefore a natural consequence of the array. The figure can actually be looked upon as a member or family of the diagrams. The order of the diagram is then determined by the number of horizontal links. In practice, for reasons dealing with the basic nature of the spherot, they're not arranged in this natural order, but have middle lines somewhat lowered somewhat. And that is what we see. This is according to the array, how it's dropped it down. But the very basic form that we just looked at is how the spherot work in an array, where it shows there's 10 points, 3 horizontals, 7 verticals, 12 diagonals, total of 22 letters. That is the Hebrew alphabet in its most symmetrical way, as it's arranged in geometric shapes. So it's just interesting to note how all of these things that we learn when we learn Torah, when we learn Hasidus, when we learn different aspects of the Torah, and we talk about the Sefirot, and we talk about the different levels, just to get a little bit of a glimpse into how deep this goes and how this is really the underlying foundation of everything. And that literally it's called a tree because of the energy, how it can be climbed up a tree, as we spoke about previously. And that's what the ancient Makublim used to do with the Sefer Yetzirah.
Is that meaning white stuff is not there?
What do you mean why tough is not there?
You said there's stuff is not? Everything is there.
Everything's
That's what I think. Okay.
no. Heard is it says the reason tough is not one of the 3 mothers, because Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, middle, and the last is, so it's say, correct. So it's they use shin instead of tough, and that's why it said it says because tough is like it is one of the doubles. Okay. In practice, for reasons dealing with the basic nature of the spherot, they are not arranged in this natural order. We already said that, but have middle lines lowered somewhat. And there are several different ways that the Kabbalists assign the letters to these diagrams. And these are shown as we'll see further on. Okay. Now we're going to continue on and we'll enter into the next part, which is chapter 1, subsection 3. This is interesting because it gets into the covenant. It speaks about the covenant that Abraham made with Hashem, the covenant of the parts. And we realize that there are different levels of circumcision. Not just in the lower part, but there's also what we call the circumcision of the tongue. And in other places, it's implied also the circumcision of the heart. As we talked about it, it says God will circumcise our hearts of stone and turn them into hearts of flesh, referring to the final layer that's covering over our hearts in the times of the Galut, which can be entered into. It takes a lot of work, a lot of deep learning, and a lot of deep working on yourself to penetrate that. And that's to go into the 5th level. Keter, in fact, resides in the penimius aspect of the heart, the penimius halek. But there's a circumcision, just like in a circumcision of a child when he's 8 years old. You have the main part of the circumcision, and then there's the thin layer that has to be peeled back. It's the same thing with our heart. So in fact, there's multiple areas of circumcision. There's not just the reproductive organ for men, but there's also the tongue and the heart that needs to be circumcised. It says that's why Moshe had problems, it said, with speech, because his tongue wasn't circumcised because the Torah hadn't been given yet. Meaning that it was still the capabilities from a Kabbalistic standpoint of climbing the deeper levels of the tree were not revealed yet at that point in time. So let's go back inside. So chapter 1, subsection 3, it says, Eser Sfirot Blima, which is exactly how chapter 1, subsection 2 started out. 10 Sfirot of nothingness, but Mispar Eser, Etzba'ot, in the number of 10 fingers. Chamesh keneged chamesh, 5 opposite 5. Ubrit yichid, and a singular brit, a singular covenant. Kevan be'emsa, directly in the middle. B'milat halashon, and a circumcision of the tongue. B'milat hamaor, and a circumcision of the membrum, or the reproductive organ. This is very interesting because we're going to learn how the Esser Sfirot are also connected to our fingers and to our toes, and how that energy can be balanced and counterbalanced through the dimension of our fingers, which is why we see, the famous story of how someone made a picture of the Rebbe and gave it to him, a very nice picture. And the Rebbe said, "Thank you very much, but I don't close my hands like that." And the picture of the Rebbe's hands were like this. And he said, "We never do this because you're mixing up the Sfirot, because each one of your hands represents one of the dimensions of the Sfirot, and therefore, if you look at pictures of the Rebbe, instead of locking them in like this, there will be a division where they're not one interlocked, with the other." Okay. The number of 10 fingers. What time are we at? We're good. Creation is said to have been accomplished with God's fingers. As it is written, "When I see your heavens, the work of your fingers." This is Tehillim. The 10 numerical digits similarly parallel the 10 fingers in man. The 5 fingers of the hand contain a total of 14 bones. This is the numerical value of Yad, which is 14, the Hebrew word hand. Very interesting. Most people did not know that. Okay. 5 opposite 5. There's a printing error here. It says 5 opposite live. It's 5 opposite 5. So it says, although the Sfirot usually divided into 3 columns, they can be arranged in 2 arrays, one to the right and the other to the left, as we spoke about. So there are the 3 divisions of the Sfirot, the right, middle, and left. But there's a way to take the middle column and pull them directly to the right and left. So instead of 3, 3, and 4 in the middle, you have 5 on the right and 5 on the left. The masculine Sfirot on the right side would then be all those normally on the right, as well as the upper 2 center Sfirot. And the feminine Sfirot on the left side would include the 3 normally on the left, together with the 2 lower Sfirot. So just to show you inside what that looks like. So basically what you would have is you would have the 3 on the right are the masculine, and then you add the 2 above, and the 3 on the left are the feminine, and you add the 2 below. And that is how you would come to the division of the Sfirot into 2 columns instead of 3. The 5 masculine Sfirot are often referred to as the 5 loves, or Hey Chasidim, as they're known, since they are on the side of Chesed, love. The 5 feminine Sfirot are similarly called the 5 strength, Hey Gavor, because they're on the side of Gavora, strength. See figure 7 on page 34. If you look at page 34, if you have the diagram, you'll see the hand. And you'll see how the hand is likened, and it splits to the right hand would be Keter Chokma, Chesed Tiferet Netzach, and the left hand, Bina Gavora, Hod Yisod, and Malchus. You don't have it over there? I got to make further copies. So what is happening over there is now we are taking this energy, which is normally in 3 columns, and subdividing into 2 columns. So we have a clear, instead of having a middle column, which is blending the right and the left, we're having right and left, complete right and complete left. And what is the result of that is 2 opposite, very strong energies. When the Sfirot are in their normal state, in 3 columns, state equilibrium. The Sfirot of the second column are moved to the right. To divide the Sfirot into 2 arrays, a powerful tension is produced. When they're in such a mode, powerful spiritual forces can be directed and channeled. So this is a way to use this energy by separating them into 2 sides. So you have complete right and complete left, complete masculine and complete feminine. Therefore, in many places, when God interferes directly, the most obvious case occurs with reference to creation itself, which it says, "You're the work of your fingers." This is from Tehillim. We also find, "My left hand has founded the earth, and my right hand has spread out the heavens." Before such a creative act could take place, all the Sfirot had to be polarized to male and female sides, generating tension and force. Just as human procreation involves male and female, so does divine creation. So when God created and separated, if you will, heaven and earth, prior to that, we would say that the divine attributes of all the sefirot were in three columns, right, left, and middle. But when God said, I want to now create, he had to separate that energy into masculine and feminine to completely make a difference between physical and spiritual, right? Masculine is usually spiritual, feminine is physical. And that's why we have the left and the right. Right hands being heavens or spiritual energy from above, left hand meaning earth or feminine energy from below. And that's why God uses his hands in the description, with my left hand, with my right hand, because essentially doing is taking the sefirot and pulling them to two opposite sides and creating complete masculine and feminine separation in order to stretch out and cause this dynamic where masculine and feminine energy are divided.
So what's the problem to do like this?
Huh?
Beautiful. You're doing a combination of right and left.
I don't know exactly the Kabbalistic reason why it's a problem. It would seem to be, what's the problem? It seemed like they flow in perfectly together. But for one reason or another, they're not meant to do that. And I think the reason being is that, as we were saying before, because the right and left masculine and feminine energy, I don't know if we have the capabilities to put them together in a proper balancing energy without causing things to be messed up, for lack of a better term. So interesting enough, because it says when Mashiach comes, God is going to once again put those energies back together, meaning there will be no more separation between heaven and earth, feminine and masculine, and spiritual and physical. Everything will just be godliness. So it's almost like he's separating everything. For thousands of years, we've been fixing everything, and then everything will come back together in a fixed way, so to speak. Excuse me. Very closely related to this are the various actions that use the hands to channel spiritual forces. These include the laying of hands, the lifting up of hands, and the priestly blessing, right? When we do Birkas Kohanim, what are we doing? We're taking that energy and we're channeling it. And it's interesting because in the Birkat Kohanim, they go like this. Huh? It's 2 and 2, 2 and 2 in the thumbs. And they're actually, according to halacha, you don't put them even. The right hand has to be slightly above the left hand. Yeah. Just a little bit above, because the right always favors the left. And they're supposed to be when Shiloh goes there, my talis always lift his hands up, because they're supposed to be right exactly where you speak. Because when the blessings of the Kohanim come out of the mouth, they act as windows and they channel through the hands and go out. And in the Beis Hamikdash, you actually put your hands above your head. I used to see when I used to do Birkas Kohanim when we lived in the old city every single day at the Kotel. And I used to correct people because they put their hands up here, and I said, that's not right. You don't do that. That's just only in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. You know, you see sometimes people, they have their hands up here and they're moving their toes. It's incorrect. The hands are supposed to be directly at the level of your mouth so the energy goes through. Only in the times of when we're pure and our hands are completely purified, you're able to lift them above. But for now, that's just another way of bringing that energy in. And the spreading of the hands in prayer. In all these cases, the intent is to channel the power of the 10 sefirot through the 10 fingers and making them correspond to the 2 hands. The sefirot are polarized, causing spiritual tension. See figure 8 on chapter, next page in 34, which we'll get to in a minute. Once such tension exists through meditation and concentration, the powers of the sefirot can be focused and channeled, meaning that with proper intention, someone is able to bring the energy of the sefirot into reality. So it says like this. The Hebrew here is Brit Yachid, the Hebrew word that is used here. It's a singular covenant. Some read Brit Yichud, a unifying covenant, but the meaning is similar. Are you there? Are you still have more? You're done.
Only the 3-4 sentences.
It stops at page 33. I'm gonna make more copies. Okay.
3 sentences.
Okay. The Hebrew here is Brit Yachid, but some read it as Brit Yichud, a unifying covenant, but the meaning is similar. A similar concept is found in the last chapter regard to Abraham. In general, a covenant, Brit, is something that comes between two separate parts. The paradigm of a covenant is that which God made with Abraham when he commanded him. Take to me a prime heifer, a prime female goat, a prime ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. These 5 animals that God commanded Abraham to bring him represent the 5 fingers. That's why 3 of the animals were divided in half, so that 6 half represent the 6 Sefirot, which are normally to the right and left. And the 4 halves of the birds, which are not divided, represent the 4 Sefirot, normally in the center line. And that's why you see we have some of them were divided, were commanded by Abraham to divide in half, and the birds not in half, and for that exact reason. So when God commanded Abraham to bring him these different animals, they represent the exact array that we just spoke about. The energy focused on the right side and the left side, the masculine and feminine energy. How are you? And the balancing energy in the middle. And that's what it says. Now, what's interesting is it says that the 2 tablets containing the 10 commandments are also called tablets of the covenant. It was for this reason they were given as 2 tablets rather than a single one. I bring about this idea a lot, that why didn't God just put all 10 commandments on one tablet? We just answered it. So it says like this, because the 2 tablets containing the 10 commandments are also called tablets of the covenant. And just like we said, the Brit, the covenant, is what separates in the middle, and it separates the female and masculine energies. So in order for that energy to come to the world, God separated masculine and feminine energy, right side and left side, just like we're talking about the separation in the Sefirot, to pulling them to side.
So the Luchot were one side is feminine and one side is
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. The positive mitzvahs and the negative mitzvahs. The negative. Yeah, because the masculine energy is a giving energy and the feminine is a receiving energy. So it's
So what do the men don't do because the nature is to do?
good point. It's not so it goes against their nature. It's just that generally speaking, the masculine energy, if you just look at like reproductive organs, right? The masculine reproductive organ is outside the body and the feminine is inside the body. So the male energy has to give out and the female energy has to receive. So that's why the positive mitzvahs to do are connected to the giving out, and the negative to receive are to hold back. So it says when they're divided into this double array, the place in the middle becomes the focus of spiritual tension. This is called the singular covenant or the unifying covenant. So you have the masculine and the feminine energies on the luchot, you have the right side and the left side. The goal, of course, is the covenant. In other words, what's more important than doing is your connection to God. In other words, everything starts with this covenant, just like we learned earlier that just like there's a covenant in the Brit, in the heart, and the tongue, which we're going to get to next. All of these energies really come back to the general idea of our covenant with God. All the other covenant is a it's a covenant is a Brit. It's a
connection.
it's both. It's
we're never going to separate.
Correct.
We don't want to.
Correct.
So you can do mitzvot, but don't have the middle line. You can do it with no. You understand what I'm saying?
How do you know? Because when certain mitzvot are hard for people, they just don't do it. They pick and choose.
But there's no one that's doing everything.
Well, until we're in the base of English in Israel, you can't do everything. But whatever you're capable of doing, in other words, it's the same thing. God created the world. It says there's one opinion that is created in 10 utterances and one in one utterance. Have both things. One say that all the mitzvot were given in one word, one were given in 10, because the 10 is the division. This is the actual mitzvot of what we are doing in the world. The one is our covenant with our connection to, meaning that is what has to take precedent more than everything else. It's the middle energy of I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me, right? We're an el. So when you have a covenant, It's the same thing of marriage, right? When you get married, you make a covenant between a husband and a wife. Covenant, the agreement, the marital contract is okay. I agree to give you. It's we're binding each other to God. So if are not so good or easy or difficult, whatever the case may be, that's part of the marriage. When you lose sight of the focus of the covenant, then what happens is it's very easy to start and well, like that, maybe separate the covenant because of the details, if you will. Important. Kicking off every single. Very strange. Okay. 5 opposite 5 with a singular covenant precisely in the middle. If you look at your tongue, there's a slight line in the middle of the tongue. That's the covenant. It's the same idea. There's masculine and feminine sides of your tongue. Our hands, right? Right side, left side, right side, left side. It's the hearts. If you it's not exactly like the drawing, but you draw a heart, right? What is it? There's a line that goes right through this to the middle of it. Right side and the left side of the heart. So God has separated these energies, if you will, but that tension, the spiritual tension between the masculine and feminine energies, the goal is to balance them. And how do you balance them? Through the covenant, through the middle column. In other words, it says, who makes peace in heaven? How does a male and a woman even stay together? Masculine and feminine energy, it's fire and water. Like only God can bring together two opposites. Let's look at us, Adam. Adam is going on male and woman and female. The very so Aleph Dam. Aleph is God. It's the highest level of divine energy. Dam is blood. It's the most physical aspect in the world. That only God can bring together the most spiritual and the most physical, two complete opposite energies, and put it inside of us. It's not possible. God, it can't be. It can't exist. Can't coexist. And that's the idea. The idea is that all these energies, the covenant that God told Abraham, the animals, the right side, the left side, the middle, all of this is going to the fact that God is saying, listen, I'm making a pact with you, a covenant with you. You're dividing this down the middle. So whatever with these two opposite energies, the middle column to bring it together. Otherwise, it's not possible. Otherwise, things are always going to go to the right or to the left or to the right. Just look. I don't want to get.
When someone feels tired in their relationship between a man and a woman or Hashem and the people, so you need to remember go back to the covenant, because when you're losing your sight of the covenant, this is what leads to like
We're learning Shema. We're learning Shema. We're learning Imre Bina. We're talking about this in Shema. Why do they keep saying Shema every day, 3 times a day? Yeah. It's what we learned, right? Shema Yisrael. I'm looking at Hashem Echad, right? That listen, Yisrael, Hashem is our God, meaning up there's no doubt about our covenant. It's clear. When we're up in heaven, no one's questioning our connection, our relationship with God. It's like this, right? But Hashem is one where down here in this physical world, we have to work to keep that energy from above to below. And it's the same thing in a marriage. This is why they say the first year, everything is lofty because there's no avoda really. God's like this with you. And then after that, that's when the time the work kicks in. And it's a constant remembrance. You have to constantly go back to this remembrance of this is what Elu is. We're reminding ourselves that this is a relationship. It's a real relationship with God. And without the covenant, everything else is just, yeah, exactly. Someone could sit and learn Torah all day long and go into business and be a ganef and steal from people. How could it be? Because they're not connected to the inner parts, which is penetrating in the heart, the tongue. We're getting into that, the circumcision of the tongue, showing how the energy also comes out from the tongue, and how important our speech is, how important it is when we speak, because the words that come out of our mouth create realities. It's a crazy concept, right? We say like when someone speaks lashon hara, it affects three people: the one who's speaking, the one you're talking about, right, and the one who's listening. But the one you're talking about could be in the other end of the world. Like if we're sitting and talking about a lashon hara about someone who lives in Africa, like how is it affecting them? They're not here, because that's how powerful our speech is. What comes out of our mouth causes reality into the world.
Also, like when you like worry about someone, when you worry about someone, like it doesn't sound any good, you know,
Right.
capturing energy.
No,
It's
I know.
like sending fear.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. And it's the opposite.
Like,
Yeah, I was worried about you.
see into that, and you don't want to like.
I know. And unfortunately, it's used as like it's some like a badge of I care about you. I was worried about you, like right, exactly. It's a problem we have to work on. Anyways, all right, we'll stop from there. Have a nice week, and see y'all later.